Hi, everybody. So we're back with Creative Raids, and today is a super special one because I'm talking to Peggy Anne Salz, and it's Peggy is our first external guest, so it's like yay!
Wonderful.
It's a milestone in the podcast. Peggy, thank you so much for agreeing to talking to me today.
I'm
How
good.
are you?
I'm just going to put you on complete frame because I want to look into your eyes. They're so beautiful and blue and they match your hair. That is so cool, Patty. I
Thank
love
you.
your new
You're
look.
so
I know you have
sweet.
that look. I love your new look. No, it's great to be here. When you called me and I'm like, oh, this will be good. We can just chat and we can see where it takes us because you are eclectic as well, Patty, is one
Uh,
way I would describe you. So I'm happy to be here. It's a meeting of the minds. I feel like a Vulcan mind meld coming on. Indeed.
Pretty much like this is, I usually say this is a safe space where we talk about everything and anything and just
I like that.
see how it takes us.
I can see that. That's very cool. Yeah, so here I am. Very similar to you, but very different. So that's what makes it also exciting.
I
Because
I
you're
feel like
creative.
we are very colorful at the moment, like blue and
Absolutely. We got
orange.
the orange, we got the blue, we're set, we're colorful, we're happy, we're cheerful. Maybe I'll even give you his B-roll when we met last time at Pocket Gamer London and had a great little spontaneous interview and a big
Sure.
hug as well. Because we think similar, in a similar way. You're very creative, more creative than I am. But you're
No,
also
I
pragmatic.
don't know. I think I think creativity and pragmatism they go hand in hand. You can't
They
have
do.
one without the other.
They do. They do. Because if you really are going to create, guess what? It's hard work.
Yep.
Really, to bring something to its completion is passion and, can I say it? Because I love alliteration. Maybe
Yep.
perspiration, right? Passion, perspiration. It's hard work. There you go.
Very true. So let's start from the beginning.
Oh,
I think everybody, or at least everybody that has been in the industry for a while knows you really well. But imagining that we also have new people
oh,
listening to this, thinking about getting into the industry. So please introduce yourself. What do you do, and how did you get into games?
wow. Now that's something because it's like billiard balls. Things hit on a big pool table, and here I am. Didn't quite plan it like this because, yes, I am first and foremost a journalist. I love to write. I've been writing actually started writing about music when I was 17 years old. We won't go there when that was. But what okay, I'm Peggy Anne Salz. I am now a content marketing strategist because if you do content for a long time, you don't only understand how to create it, but you understand how to produce it, how to repurpose it, how to extract the most value out of every single asset. Because when I was freelance, that's what I had to do, get a great idea, and the more you could sell the same idea, the more it was worthwhile. So you get one great idea and do it 5 different ways. That made sense. Now, today, that's a business model. One good piece of content and create it from different angles, your long form, your short form, your video, your snippet, blog post, audio, video, everything, right? That's where I am. So I would say I'm a content machine, Patty. So I am a content machine. That's what I am. How did I get here? How did I get into games? Well, very early on, beyond just playing games, I understood that we spend our time here. We are interested here. We are passionate here. We exist here. And this is before we are what we are now. This is even before mobile, right? So you could see that where you spend time and where you invest your effort and where you exist, that is going to be what you care about. And whatever you care about influences your life and your decisions. So I thought this is a realm where we exist, and it's going to evolve into exactly what it is right now, which is maybe not for me or even for you, but for the business of games. This is where the audience is. This is where we're having fun, but this is also where the audience is. So for me, what's exciting is that intersection of The audience is here. The activity is here. Yes, the brands are here. They'll figure out how to be there properly. It will all happen in time. But everything is here. This is a microcosm of the real world. And that's what it is before there were virtual worlds, which is what you're very into, I know, as well, Patty. But there was a time before that, remember?
Yep.
There was a time when Second Life was like, what is that? What is that going to be about? I remember people saying when Second Life started, that's where we're going to work, and we're going to have like little images of files, and we're going to move them into places, and it's going to be like this virtual, physical, digital thing. And look where we are now. So, long story short, that's how I got into it. I understood it was going to be the intersection of everything, and I wanted to be there too.
I've I am mind blown a little bit just because I was this morning on a podcast with the people from a meta world and we were talking about the metaverse. So it's like I can't get away from that. It goes from one thing to the other. It's like,
It is
but
true though. I mean, that's where we are. We're forming it. It's not quite the way it needs to be yet, but the concept is there, and it's sort of like once the genie is out of the bottle, you know something is going to happen. This is where we exist. This is in a sense, you said this is a safe space. Well, that in a way can also be a safe space. It's a different type of interaction. Um, and I remember one time speaking with someone who was from the like the rural south of America. I don't know where. I'm not going to insult any one state in the US, but it was like the idea of like, I grew up here and I'm not limited by that. I can go out into the gaming world and be with people who are like-minded. I can do what I want. I'm not limited by the fact that I'm in a very, very small town because I'm in a global world. I find that inspiring. That's another reason why I like gaming, because it allows us to push our boundaries, literally.
it's very true, but you work a lot with mobile games,
Yeah,
and we are we are young enough that we know mobile games were not always what they are now, and how fast it evolved. As you were talking about this immersion and interactivity, how do you see that going with the mobile games? Like, is it gonna be more transmedia, more cross-platform,
yeah.
what do you think? Like, especially nowadays that mobile games are almost like mini computers on our hands. There's almost no limitation anymore in what you can do with one or the other.
That's true, but then there's also the discussion that's been going on for years. In fact, um, actually very up to date now. I'm on the board, for example, of the Mobile Marketing Association here in Germany, where I'm based. From the States originally, I live in Germany. And the discussion there is it mobile marketing? Isn't it just marketing everywhere? So we get to this question of you talk about mobile games, and we're having elsewhere in the industry the discussion is mobile a prefix? Do we drop it? Remember when it was e-commerce? Remember it was e-business? No, it's commerce, it's business. You don't really, no one says e-business. I remember writing about e-business. Dates me a little bit, but we won't go there. Um, Mobile games. Why do I believe in cross-platform? Because it will just be where we are, and it will be wherever we are, whether that is stationary at home or on the go or someplace else. Mobile is about the next billion. That's why I'm so excited about it, because that means it's inclusive, but it's not exclusive of cross platform. So, in the Mobile Marketing Association, they're saying, why don't we call ourselves the Modern Marketing Association? Because we have an M, we have to do something with the M. Not
Yeah.
saying if that's correct or not, but you see that the mentality is there. Yeah, mobile, yes, but it's everything. And if it's everything, then you can't limit it to one. So where are we in mobile gaming? We're where we need to be, but we're going to go much further. That's my
Uh, So, keeping in mind this idea of being cross-platform, how do you see the interaction happening? Like, because for a very long time, if you were a PC or console gamer, you are this kind of gamer. You play this kind of games. The genre of games were very different. People like you had a really specific structure for things, and then mobile games were the more casual, the easier one, light, that people would play maybe on the bus, especially in Asia, people would play on the train while they're going to work. That was a very specific division between them.
Hmm.
And nowadays we don't see that much division anymore. I remember one article that you wrote for PG.Biz where you were talking about AAA coming to mobile gaming, and how you can have like all these interactions. So how do you see that happening? Uh, like when we talk about cross-platform, like will we still have these different genres, or is it gonna be more seamlessly? What are your thoughts in that regard?
Yeah, that's an interesting point because I was thinking about that when you were asking me the question, and I remember I've heard it several times at conferences since. It was one quote in one article I wrote at pg.biz where if you want to try out a new game, you do it on mobile. You launch on mobile first, and then you see what's happening, and then you gather that and feed that back into the game so that what you're constructing for console is still drawing from mobile. So it is a very interesting and exciting sort of experimental space, right? It's the petri dish of what can your game look like, and I really believe that the role of mobile, it doesn't disappear in a seamless experience. I always believe in people, and people do what people want to on the platforms that they want to do it. So even in content, you don't think about what type of content do I make. You make all of the above and you let the people decide. And that's similar here, is that you're making sort of all of the above in your gaming experience and you're letting people decide. For people who want to just sort of dip in and out while they're commuting, or they want to play casual games or hyper casual, those two genres in specific, they are suited well. Although I won't say only, because midcore is also crushing it on mobile as well. You know, I believe that it needs to be all of the above because you need to be where your audience is. That's like simple, simple, straightforward rule number one of everything, be where they are. It might be physical as well because we're seeing so many events, esports events, but other types of genres going into esports, they can have a physical event because people want to experience the game in real life as well. So I think that the answer is, what is the experience? The experience is everything. And those who can understand that and adapt to all of these platforms have it best, and have the best chances of success. Console is not the focus. I still believe mobile being personal, it's sort of like a remote control. It's what you use to reach me. If you want to contact me, Patty, you can text me or you can do something on any platform, but it's up to me to accept you on that platform. So it's my gatekeeper in a way. And being that fiercely personal, obviously, it's going to be the center of my gaming experience.
I think a lot of the things that you said is deeply connected with community.
Mm.
So how do you see the gaming community nowadays, especially like going full circle on what we started talking about, the interactivity and the metaverse is the not only is mobile first, but is it the community first? Did game developers like finally realize that it's
Tribe.
community first, or are we still struggling with that?
Um, I think it's a tribe, but I think that depends also very much on the game. And what I'm hearing and what's I think, very inspiring is that everyone is talking about, again, the power of a good game, a good narrative. I loved the interview I did with Tactile, because they care about the story and they match the audience and the story really well. And they've been able to make money doing that in casual, showing that if you understand the audience, in this case, you have, a younger female demographic, and you have a storyline that's got more of a plot and something more interesting and more what younger women appreciate that that is successful as a model. You know, it's not just about the I would say the short term sort of like wow factor things. Or when I was at a conference recently at Games Forum, I was at a conference as well, and they were talking, about the shock value of creatives, and it's not about that anymore. I think so. That for me is very inspiring. That we're past sort of like the um, I don't know, sort of like the junk food approach to content. Now it has to be lasting, it has to be refreshed. And understanding that, I think now we're getting back to community, because what is that about? That's about finding stories that resonate with people. How do you find out what resonates with people? You connect with them. You ask them. So many companies, it's fascinating. I mean, maybe you're seeing this as well. So many companies are like, hey, we're asking our players, and you're seeing this increase in the number of surveys and companies that can help you do a survey. Whoever thought you'd be talking about that, or talking to companies who are doing eye tracking and other things. I was talking to Dirt. We are dirt.com. Very cool company, looking at the behavior of people so that between what you ask and what you observe, you understand your community. We're back to understanding and wanting to really understand our audience, because we have to, because we understand it is a tribe. So we can't, there's no shortchanging a tribe.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that now, like I said, nowadays it's easier than ever. If you see the way game developers can create communities on Discord
Yeah.
before they actually have anything released, and really test it with them and check. And I also like, I don't know how you feel about it, but I also like very much the marketing changed from being this up down kind of approach of I am a brand and I'm selling you this, and I'm pushing this down your throat, like it was in the 50s, 60s, 70s, that it was like the brands are the doing the narrative. And nowadays it is, if I want to sell to you, I have to understand you as an audience and sell a story, sell a compelling story that you will either connect with or not. And you create these niches of
And
stories that they happen.
to your point, what I find very exciting and is actually the topic of my next book, Patty, is
Ooh.
yeah, is looking at values driven marketing, and how not only is it no longer, and it hasn't been for a while, a one-way conversation. It is, it is two-way, but even more so, it is sort of not even um, a how do I want to put it? Um, Stop and let me think about the word for it. Because I am based in Germany, and sometimes I lose my command of the English language. Some word will come in there, and it won't be the language I need. So I'll
But
go.
if you say it in German, I can help you find.
Oh, really? Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What is it in German?
I lost that because I was looking for English, but I didn't know you could speak German. I switched between my sort of my dictionaries in my brain. Let
It's
me
all
go back to
right.
the thought. So I would say Voraussetzung, but it's not Voraussetzung. It's like a priority. I want to say that it used to be that a two-way conversation, it was something special. You were enabling it. It's like, oh, isn't this great? I can talk to my brand. And now it's I want to say Voraussetzung. It is the Voraussetzung for communication. It's the standard. It's the standard upon
Yeah.
which you build it. Is what I'm trying to say. Is that you don't ask people if they want to contribute to whatever it is you're building, your advertising experience, whatever. It is a given. So the two-way conversation is a given, that I can speak to my brand, be it on WhatsApp or whatever, which is happening increasingly as well. But beyond that, it is, because it's a given. If you don't give people the opportunity to shape their experience, that is now more outside the norm or feeling strange. So it's not just a two-way conversation, it's a shaping is what I
Yep.
want to say. It's one thing to say, what do you think about my brand? Do you like this or do you like that? And it's another to say, as what we're seeing now, is that people shape the advertising experience. They're telling companies, you need to stand for something, and I need to like what you stand for. Um, and companies that turn a deaf ear to that won't be successful. Won't really be. I wouldn't say it'll bring them down, but it will certainly cost them. And
That is
we're
true.
already seeing that. We're already seeing that a lot. We're seeing that with some brands where people are saying, you know what, I don't like what you stand for, so I am not going to be your advocate, and I'm going to take my purchasing dollars with me. So there you go.
Yeah.
Is that type of world.
Not only that, I think also nowadays we also have the audience that used to be just passive and in the consumer side also being content creators and opinion creators. So not only you have to sell what you're selling through the audience, but you will also have the audience
Yeah.
uh, selling their point of view, and they can make it or break it for you depending on where they stand.
And we're very much in the micro influencer. We've moved off from the macro influencer. So celebrities are also not in power anymore.
Yep.
It really is us. Makes me think of that famous book from Seth Godin, and I think about this often because these are books that are over 20 years old, and then you think about it and say, like No Logo, which just celebrated, I think, its 20th anniversary. And you say to yourself, you know what? It's gone full circle. He said, we will all be publishers. When did he say
Yep.
that? Before there was mobile, before there was any opportunity to, to take your phone and go out and be sort of, like the roving reporter type of person, even with an old phone like mine. But the point is that we are all creators. And what does that mean when we all create? That means we co create. When we co create, we demand a seat at that table. So, yes, brands are listening, game studios are listening, the people who design games, the people who design the UA, the UX, but also the advertising experience. If you're going to monetize, whether it's ads, reward ads, whatever, that's part of it as well. It's great to be a player. Maybe not so great to be a studio. Let's just put it that way. It's great when the people are in control, but if you're making a business model, you have to rethink.
And how do you think it's gonna do? Because it's impossible to please everybody. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
biggest problem I feel in that is that
But
yes, I will listen to my community, but it's a balance game between creating a product that I am proud of and it's something that I want to do, and at the same time doing something that the community wants, and bearing in mind that I'm not gonna please my whole
And
community.
bearing in mind people don't know what they want, right?
Yep.
They don't know what they want. There are so many books, so many studies, so many articles where the irrational choice, you give people a choice, and everything says about their personality or what they express about themselves
Yep.
that they are going to choose something, but in reality they're choosing something else, because even how we think we are not. You might say, "Oh, I'm very liberal in my thinking." How many people did that in the U.S.? And then you see how they vote. I won't go there.
Oh
I won't
yeah.
go there,
Yeah.
right?
If we go politics, then it becomes a different podcast.
You can see how, asking people is not always a great idea because we don't know. But that means, again, and that's why I'm also excited, watching things like player types come back. I'm doing a book about values driven marketing, because it's about understanding what people value in addition to their demographics and their behavior, and then the common values that they have based on those. You need to have these layers of understanding. What are you going to do to create a great narrative in your game? Are you going to ask them? No, but you're going to understand all the signals that tell you who your audience is. And that will lead you to some conclusions. Like, for example, I remember, might have been Game Refinery, maybe another, talking about the different player types. And for example, casual gamers are completionists, right? That's
Yep.
what describes them. And they like to complete things. So you want to give them things in the game that they can complete because they want to, check that box. They want to move through that. That's not the only player type. But if you understand this, it will tell you a lot about your mechanics. It will tell you about, okay, if you have people who are explorers in your game, give them something to explore. So I believe that there are other ways to give people what they want by understanding them better than they understand themselves.
And I think it's a lot about the emotional connection as well. Like you want, I actually wrote an article about that people tend to think, oh, for you to have emotional connection, it needs to be triple A or full narrative, and I was trying to explain that no, even a simple game as Tetris can have a story behind things. Like everything can create emotional connection depending on how you market it. And so my question is not how would you advise like game developers that are starting right now? They know the technical part of things. They know how to create great games. They are good programmers, artists, but they don't have as much experience in the marketing side.
True.
What are the key things that they should keep in mind to be able to create this emotional connection with their community? Like, what would be your simplest advice on where do I start?
Maybe not where do I start, but what is a tactic to consider? I don't know that it's the one where you need to start, but I think it needs to be in the mix. Um, I think you need to tell stories also with your players. You need to enable them to tell their story rather than try and shape the story overall. So what I did for years, for example, is I consulted and worked with Liftoff on the Mobile Heroes program, bringing that content to life about how marketers not were using Liftoff. That wasn't the point. I think we barely mentioned Liftoff in 7 years that I did this. But what we did do was we told the story of, what are they? How do they do it? What do they do? What are their challenges? What are their, they're named Liftoff Mobile Heroes. What is that accomplishment? So having them sort of tell their story. Now, how you translate that to a game, that would be something you'd have to think through, but very much making not just the players giving the players a reason to love your game, but enabling your players to also tell why they love that game and be your community, be your advocates. I think that's very important, particularly because now it's really important to be authentic. We're reading and hearing a lot about influencers who sold out. We're thinking a lot about the influencers we work with, and how can they be for this and that and that? It doesn't make any sense, but it probably makes sense when you see the checks roll in at the end of the month. It's like, yeah, of course they can be in favor of all this stuff that doesn't seem like it connects because it's a business. So yeah, authentic is everything. So enable your fans, your players to be part of that. I think that's really important. Is it the only thing to do? No, but it's one thing that you can easily do on top of everything else.
Nice. I told you half an hour flies away. It really does
It does.
fly.
Done?
It's
We didn't
super
even
easy.
start. Oh my goodness.
So I
But
I wanted to finish this with advices. I always like to finish things on like we already did a bit of practical term, but I think a lot of game developers they still have well, and creative people in general, they still have difficulty thinking about the business of things. They are in their creative mindset. Uh, they have passion. They probably had that idea of the game in their head for ages, and it's their passion project, and it's almost like a dirty word for them to think about business. They
yeah,
A lot of people still have difficulty navigating on that time. So I wanted to finish, if you don't mind, with an advice on how can I incorporate business into the creative side without losing their soul in the process.
without
Like how can they see that in a more positive view?
Well, we always have to understand that if we really want to affect change or make a statement or express ourselves out there, ultimately it has to be something that is going to be successful as a business as well. Unless, of course, you're one of those very, very few people who wants to live in a cave and eat some sort of, just plants and nuts and what you find in the woods, right? It's not going to happen. So I think that it's almost your duty if you are a cross thinker, out of the box thinker to succeed, right? Do not fail because there are so few of you. So you need to think about business, right? Because otherwise it will just be the triple A's. And at some point, I mean, as much as I love it, there is such a thing as too much Marvel, right?
Oh yeah, please.
Oh, yeah. As much as I love them, don't get me wrong here, but there is such a thing and there's a world beyond it, right? And we will evolve beyond this. If this is all that gaming was supposed to be, then I'm disappointed because I thought it could be, I've gone to the conferences you have too, Patty, about, how the metaverse can be something that we actually do right this time. We can build it. We're builders, we can shape it. Won't go there, but you get the idea. I want people to succeed. So don't think that it's selling your soul to be successful, first of all, right?
I
Because it's
agree.
almost your duty. You have to, because you have the vision to see what it can be. So please do succeed doing it. How do you do that with creative and combine it all together? Understanding, I hate to say it, but I've seen enough of this speaking with all the UA managers and the creative directors out there. It really, truly does make sense to look at the data that you can have about your audience and do your testing and try to create creatives that will bring players into your game who you want to have in your game. You can't target the way you used to. I mean, it's just a fact and it's gone away and we need to deal with that. So your creative becomes in a way sort of that filter. If I see a certain creative, and please do not do deceptive creatives. That's another one. No, 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 no. Do real creatives, but based on your real game, so you bring in the players you want. I've talked with studios that thought, hey, we're going to do this really cool creative, a little bit of shock value, and then they get these sort of like, you know, because I'm a Trekkie, right? They want to have a game for Vulcans, but they attract a bunch of Klingons, right?
Yep.
And then the Klingons wreck it, and they wonder how that happened. It's like, well, you brought them into the game in the first place by saying it was going to be this type of game. You got these competitive, horrible type of personality clash between competitives and people who want to creates like, building community type games. You've got people who want to like crash the party. It's it's because you brought them in the first place. You went for the short
True.
term win instead of the midterm work. So yes, creative, it's important. Get it wrong, you can track the wrong players, wreck your game, kill your community before it's even started. How do you do it? You have to look at the data around your audience. They're better teachers than I am about this, and plenty of ways to learn it that you test, that you work out. Who do I want to attract? How am I going to do this? Understanding behavior, understanding a lot of factors about your game. But ultimately, yes, yes, you have to do that because you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your team.
I absolutely agree, and I think it's the key here. I think people forget that without like without being able to move beyond the development, it's all in vain. And we need, the truth is we do need it, that we could start a whole new discussion and podcast but just on that. But we do need the indie developers to understand this well,
Yes.
because we also cannot have everything in the hand of super
No,
big companies with a
no.
lot of data analysts. Like, so guys, learn fast so
Yeah.
you can break the market and get these
And there
new
are
and
a lot of places
exciting games
to
out.
learn, Patty. There are a lot of places to learn. That's the good news. And the other good news is that look at it this way. When people get upset about this, I say, look at it this way. There's a lever that you have control over. In marketing before, there wasn't an awful lot that marketers could control. I mean, ultimately, it was, I'm going to give all my data about what I want to the platform, to Facebook, to whomever, and they're going to do all the magic, and then I'm just going to get what they send over. And now it's like, no, I have control over the creative. With that, I have the filter. I'm saying I want these types of players or that. You don't want to leave it all to the algorithms, right? And this is the one place where there's human input and the difference a human can make. So I look at creative as, yes, it's a challenge, but it's invigorating. It puts us back in control of something, right?
Yep.
After having algorithms in control of your UA. And yes, it's difficult because that's the way it is. Ultimately, it's a digital platform, so that's the only way you interact is through the is digital with data. It's data driven marketing for games marketing, but there is an element of creativity that brought you there in the first place. So enjoy it. Do not feel challenged. Feel liberated. You can do something there. You can do something that makes a difference. And I've seen games grow completely through organic. Let's not forget that. I was just
Yep.
doing interviews recently. 95% of downloads were organic. How is that possible? They had great ASO. They thought about their game. They thought about the creative. They had a great story. They had a great narrative. It is possible. And these are small companies. But wouldn't it be great to grow 95% on your own? And now that they've gone as far as they can, now they can think about marketing. But you've got something to build on rather
Yep.
than to start that way.
This is an amazing way to finish.
Okay. I'm always an optimist. There's always a way. Always a way.
Yeah.
Absolutely always a way, because there's always a place for good ideas. And there's going to be even more so because everyone now, through the pandemic, we remember everyone became a gamer. People who weren't gamers became gamers. People who never said they were gamers are gamers. There is a huge market. There's an untapped opportunity in people, 30 to sort of like 45-ish, even 50, primarily female. They don't have what they need yet. you know
Very true. Yeah.
there's something to be said for serving a niche that is loyal, you know or others. There are other opportunities. There's also a lot in educational games. I mean, it doesn't all
Oh, there
have
is
to
so
be
much
shooter
that
games.
we didn't do
Right?
yet. Yeah.
Not all shooter games and not all superheroes. There is more out there.
Yeah, that's very true. Peggy, thank you so, so much. This was lovely. Like, really love talking to you.
Oh, Patty, I always enjoy it because you get it and you're open and you absorb it like a sponge, but you're also a great listener. So thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome anytime. Like, anytime you want to come talk. And when your book is out, please come back and tell us more about the book. We can
I
we
will.
can promote it
You're
and
on. You're
lovely.
little. Yes, you're on.
So, thank you, and thank you guys, and we see you well next week. Bye.